Psychology is an academic and applied discipline that involves the scientific study of mental functions and behaviors. Psychology has the goal of understanding individuals and groups by both establishing general principles and researching specific cases. The professionals in this specific theme are called psychologists and can be classified as social, behavioral, or cognitive scientists. Psychologists try to understand the behavior while also exploring the psychological and biological processes that underlie the cognitive and behaviors. Some of these psychologists are Ivan Pavlov and Sigmund Freud, that we are going to talk about later on. Psychologists explore concepts such as perception, cognition, attention, emotion, phenomenology, motivation, brain functioning, personality, behavior, and interpersonal relationships. Psychologists employ empirical methods to infer causal and correlational relationships between psychological variables in addition or in opposition. The study of psychology in a philosophical context dates back to the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Greece, China, India, and Persia. Some of the 19th century contributors to the field include the German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, that experimented the study of memory and developed quantitative models of learning and forgetting at the University of Berlin, and the Russian Soviet psychologist Ivan Pavlov, who discovered in dogs a learning process that was later termed classical conditioning and applied to human beings. Later on, there was a method called the psychoanalysis, which investigated the human mind, and this was developed by Sigmund Freud. For you to know more about these persons, here it is: Ivan Pavlov with his happy face and Sigmund Freud with his not very happy face. So let's continue and talk more about these two important men.
Perhaps one of the greatest achievements in Ivan Pavlov's life was his research in human digestive glands. When published, this research was highly regarded in academic circles. Ivan Pavlov has the honor of being the first and only psychologist who has ever received a Nobel Prize. He was awarded with this in 1904 for this work.
Okay, little boys, let me tell you something about Pavlov. In 1875, he graduated from the University of St. Petersburg and took assistantship from Sion in his laboratory at the Military Medical Academy, and received the degree of Candidate of Natural Sciences.
In 1879, he graduated from the Military Medical Academy.
In that same year, he completed the third course of study at the Academy of Medical Surgery, awarded with his first gold medal.
From 1879 to 1904, he wrote a volume in commemoration for the 25th graduation anniversary for the Military Medical Academy.
In 1983, he discovered dynamic nerves of the heart and submitted thesis for the degree of Doctor of Medicine.
In 1884, he made a lecture about psychology in the Military Medical Academy.
In 1990, he appointed director of the psychology department at the Institute of Experimental Medicine in St. Petersburg.
In 1891, he gained directorship of the Department of Psychology in the Institute of Experimental Medicine. Later on, he started in his research of psychology of digestion.
In 1997, he published his lectures entitled Lectures of the Functions of the Principal Digestive Glands.
In 1901, he was elected as corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
In 1904, he received the Nobel Prize in Psychology and Medicine for work on the psychology of the digestive glands.
1907, he was elected academician of the Russian Academy of Sciences.
In 1912, he was given an honorary doctorate at the Cambridge University.
1950, awarded the Order of the Legion of Honor.
On the 24th of January 1921, he was awarded with a special government decree signed by Lenin in Russia.
1924, resigned from professorship at the Military Medical Academy.
In 1935, his youngest son, Vsevolod, died. What characterized Pavlov's contributions is that he was always searching for a linkage of psychology and physiology.
Did you know that Pavlov's experimental reflexes passed from dogs to children for the experiments of saliva? In 1935, government built a laboratoire for Pavlov with his chief work on conditioned reflexes.
One of Pavlov's contemporaries was Sigmund Freud, born in May 6, 1856, and died in September 23, 1939. Later, he was known as the father of psychoanalysis, and in the Victorian age, he revolutionized various psychological methods with concepts like the Oedipus complex. This complex denotes the ideas or emotions hidden in the unconscious that concentrates via dynamic repressions in a child's desire to have sexual intercourse with the parent of the opposite sex.
When Sigmund Freud was young, his family moved from Freiburg, Moravia to Vienna,
when he would spend most of his life.
His parents taught him at home before entering him in Sporling Gymnasium, where he was first in his class and graduated summa cum laude.
After studying medicine in the University of Vienna, Freud worked and gained respect as a physician. Through his work with respected French neurologist Jean-Martin Charcot, Freud became fascinated with the emotional disorder known as hysteria. Later, Freud and his friend and mentor, Dr. Joseph Breuer, introduced him to the case study of a patient known as Anna O, who was really a woman named Bertha Pappenheim. Her symptoms included a nervous cough, a tactical anesthesia, and paralysis. Over the course of her treatment, the woman recalled several traumatic experiences, which Freud and Breuer believed contributed to her illness. Freud concluded that there was no organic cause for Anna O's difficulties, but that having her talk about her experiences had a calming effect on the symptoms. Freud and Breuer published the work Studies in Hysteria in 1895. It was Bertha Pappenheim herself who referred to the treatment as the talking cure.
Later works include The Interpretation of Dreams, 1900, and 3 essays of the Theory of Sexuality, 1905.
These works became world famous, but Freud's The Theory of Psychosexual Stages has long been a subject of criticism and debate. While these theories are often viewed with a skepticism, Freud's work continues to influence psychology and many other disciplines this day. One of the areas of Pavlovian work that has received less attention is on his experiments and theories about hypnosis, considered primarily as an adaptive self-defense reflex, inhibitory character, then end up being interpreted as a particular case of sleep restricted to specific cortical areas.
The psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud believed that the behavior and the personality derive from the constant and unique interaction of the conflict psychological forces that operate at 3 different levels of awareness: the preconscious, the conscious, and the unconscious. The conscious mind includes everything that we are aware of. This is the aspect of our mental processing, that we can think and talk about it rationally. A part of this includes our memory, which is not always part of the consciousness, but can be retrieved easily at any time and brought into our awareness. Freud called this the preconscious.
The preconscious mind is the part of the mind that represents ordinary memory. While we're not consciously aware of this information at any given time, we retrieve it and pull it into consciousness when needed.
The unconscious mind is a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that outside of our conscious awareness, most of the contents of the unconscious are unacceptable or unpleasant, such as feelings of pain, anxiety, or conflict. According to Freud, the unconscious continues to influence our behavior and experience, even though we are unaware of these underlying influences.
Freud likened the 3 levels of mind to an iceberg. The top of the iceberg that you can see above the water represents the conscious mind. The part of the iceberg that is submerged below the water but is still visible is the preconscious. The bulk of the iceberg lies unseated beneath the waterline and represents the unconscious.
Each person also possesses a certain amount of psychological energy that forms the three basic structures of personality: the ID, the ego, and the superego. These three structures have different roles and operate at different levels of the mind. The unconscious mind.
Like a
Linked.
no, porque miras eso.
Likened.
Freud represents the conscious mind. The part of the eyes. Dios mío.
Perdón, ¿dónde te quedaste?
Estaba más concentrado que lo. No, ahí te pegó otra vez. Go Pikachu, you're free. Bye bye, Pikachu. Represents the unconscious. Es en serio que tuviste esa cara todo el tiempo. No, verdad.
No. Of psychological energy.
Ah, perdón, ya estás grabando. Ay, bueno.
No. That forms the
Swan.
In human digestive glands.
No iba a hablar yo de...
Madre,
en serio, no iba a hablar...
¡Cállate!
No iba a hablar yo de Iván Pavlov.
¡No! Los dos no. ¡Puta madre! A ver,
Ah, ya lo entendí.
cállate. Pues otra vez. Lo dijiste
Puedes
bien.
voltearte. Muchas gracias. Allá. Eso. El otro era más o menos como que contrastaba. Este no tiene nada.
Tú solo dilo, ya.
Neta, voy a apuñalar al camarógrafo.
Así como yo te apuñalé.
Hijo de...
Ah, ya.
Hijo de...
Ok. Y ahorita Richie dice lo de Freud.
¿Puede ser mi apuntador? Ivan Petrovich. Ivan Petrovich.
manches.
Ivan. Ya la rompí.
¿Qué pasó?
In 26 of...
¿Qué?
¿Cómo se lee septiembre? Ivan Petrovich. Pavlov. 19...
18.
Ivan Petróleo se quemó, destruyendo toda la...
Ivan Pavlovich born.
No, es Ivan Petróleos. In 26 of... No le di. 1876.
49. Hasta yo me lo aprendí.
49?
49.
1849.
Ok.
1891, he gained direct gymnasium.
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 Veniendo de latín gymnasium. Where he was first in his class and graded summa cum. Summa cum.
The linkage.
No,
of-
tiempo, no empieces así, porque ya dijimos eso. O sea, eso. Pero, what characterized Pavlov's contributions is that he was always searching for a linkage of psychology and physiology.
Lo dijiste todo, listo, ahí estamos.
Au.
¿El viernes fuimos a la escuela?
¿Eh?
¿El viernes fuimos a la escuela?
Sí.
Te toca a ti, Pappenheim. Era de papelitos. It was first a papel.
¿Papelitos?
He made a... No, ¿cómo se dice? Posgrado. No sé.
Include the interpretation of petróleo.
Recuerden esto, Iván Petróleo fue privatizado por Peña Nieto.
Y después hay que...
Y después se quemó. Porque Bush lo compró.
Ok.
Oye, sí lo compró Bush.
Graduated from the Military Academy, Medical Academy, postgrade.
Postgrado.
No sé.
cuando salió un Pokémon.
Ahí sí.
A laboratoire. For Pavlov with his chief
Laboratoire.
laboratoire.
Laboratoire.